What is up, my Planet Coaster friends? Johnny5 Alive here, and today we are finally back with some Yeti Land. And in today's episode, we're going to be setting up half of our train station. We're going to be making some caves. We're going to be playing with some lighting. We're going to be building a waterfall and all sorts of cool stuff. So stay tuned and let's check it out. Alright, so let's just dive right into it. This is Yeti Land, everyone. For everyone that's new who hasn't seen this yet, this is where we do a Let's Play. We're building a place called Yeti Land, and we're running this at 6 times speed, so this is pre-recorded footage sped up to 6 times, and I just push play and start talking over it. And to be honest, this is my favorite series on this channel because this is where it's more personal. It's between me and you guys, the subscribers. These videos aren't exactly, they don't exactly go, I guess, viral. They don't hit tens of thousands of views. If maybe that's what I consider viral. I don't know. You guys know what I'm saying, though. I don't get a lot of let's say outsourced traffic to these videos. It's just my subscriber base usually that's watching this, and that makes things a lot more comfortable. I'm a lot more relaxed, and you know, there's no hateful comments. There's no toxicity here. So we just I get to sit back, speak my mind, relax, and just go with the flow. And so something I want to talk about here before I get back to whatever I was saying, this train station here, there's something that really frustrated me about this game, and I have to remember to go make a post of this on the forums. You saw there that I had to delete the train station that came with that gingerbread house because the track would not link up to it, even though they're the same type of train station. So you can't have a train station and then put another one down and then run the track to the other train station and have it click in. It's really a frustrating downside to this game, I think. Because, yeah, now what you have to do is, so I had all these train stations pre-placed. Now I have to actually run the train track in and plant the station down perfectly into the station. But that's not going to always work. So now what you have to do is you have to put down the train station on flat ground, and then you have to slide your building on top of it. So you can't just go around putting down 4 or 5 train stations and go, okay, now I'm going to go connect all the tracks. It doesn't work like that. And that's actually very frustrating because that means you're going to have to manually tinker with each one of the train stations and align things. And as you can see here, I'm trying to go up to the monorail station that we built in our Let's Build episode so we could build this giant sci-fi station for our Yeti Land. And I did that tutorial showing everybody how to set this thing up. And I was just hoping I could run the train track in there nicely, but I ran into a problem. And this is a little bit my fault. What I should have really done is I should have started the train station from the monorail, because then I would have been able to just guide it out and not have to move it. So a bit of an error and something frustrating. And then here you'll see me fiddling around going, why can't I get this straight? For some reason it wasn't aligning to the map. It was offset. Now what's really aggravating about the way they see the train track there wasn't aligned with the map. It was slightly off, like 2 or 3 degrees. And so I'm trying to figure out, did I have to like redo all the train stations? And I was looking to see if the first one was level to the map, if the second one was level to the map, and I'm like, why isn't the third one level to the map? Now what's really silly about the way the train track does its degrees, it goes at something like 12.5 degrees, and then it goes to 26 degrees. So that means if you went from 12.5 degrees sideways, and then you went to 26 degrees, and then you tried to go straight again, you're now like 2 or 3 degrees off. You can't find your way back to straight. So if you end up going 26 degrees left, you're going to have to make another piece that goes 26 degrees right to compensate for that off angle, and then you can start going straight again. And it's really frustrating because it should have been 25 degrees, not 26 degrees, because then you would have been able to just kind of pop back to the right angle again. So some little, and this just drove me nuts. So I had to like basically delete the whole train station that we set up in our tutorial. Really aggravated me, and you know, I couldn't align it. I was hoping I could just wiggle it in, but no, we're gonna have to rebuild the whole thing. However, I do this off camera. So this part here, what you're seeing, I just try and align the station, get it back into place, and then resetting up all the pathing, the decorations, all of that, and getting all the shops hooked up inside for our massive shopping mall SkyTrain station. I did that all off camera. So at some point you'll see, just like, I don't know if it's in this episode or the next episode, but the SkyTrain will just magically be finished again. But for this episode, I did just try and line it up so that it was in place. So yeah, so that's just something that I wanted to point out, and I think that would be good feedback for Frontier, that if we have two train stations that are the similar tracks, you should be able to run a track into it, and then it kind of finds its way into the next track. It says, do you want to connect these two? And it's like, yes. And then there you go, because now you have to delete the train station, put a new one in, but it has to be guided off the tracks of an existing train. So you have to like literally put down the train station, then fit your building around it, and then, oh, too high, too low, delete all your tracks, run it back up, put down your train station, and then try and fit your building in, too high, all right, try again, and it could be very frustrating. So something that I just wasn't too happy about, but I figured out how to work with it, and instead of trying to work with the system rather than against it, and I think I found something that I can work with, and I think our train stations are all going to come together quite smoothly from here. But it's just something to note when you're going to do multiple train stations that are custom train stations. Just be careful. If the one that takes the longest to set up, you're going to want to be your starting station, and then the other ones, don't place them down until the platform is built. Then fit the building around the platform. So here we've ran our train station from one gingerbread town to the next one, and then now we're running it to our sci-fi. Obviously the sci-fi was intended to be a monorail for the downloaders, but for this map we're going to keep it as the new train station that came with the winter update. I didn't want to have a monorail in here because I wanted to use the new train station. So it just so happens that a train runs into our sci-fi monorail station, and that's fine with me. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. So right here I'm just trying to add some more hills. I didn't like all this exposed track going around the map, so I thought if it went into ground a little bit, and I just wanted to paint it and play around with it, but it was looking a little bit like just a big turd and an ugly mound. And I think the final result, like I'll go back and touch this a little bit here and there, and I'll touch things here and there. And once we get our lighting in and do a little bit of tweaking here and there, I think the way it turns out in the final result looks pretty good. But right now it's just kind of looking like a man-made moundy turd. But nonetheless, I didn't want having all this exposed track everywhere. I just want the train to kind of appear for a bit, disappear, appear for a bit, and we're gonna have multiple trains on this. So I kind of jump around a lot when I'm working on these things, and everybody wanted me to get back to Yeti Land, and the idea for Yeti Land is we wanted to build 5 unique train stations. So we have the gingerbread that's destroyed by the Yetis, we have the brand new gingerbread. So they're both the same, but one's a destroyed version. And it's the one that we made for our 1,000 subscriber special, the Festive Train Station. Then we spent like 15 hours building that giant monorail, the sci-fi station with the mall built in. That really sidetracked us from working on Yeti Land. So we're still needing 2 more train stations. If I went and started working on those, we wouldn't really get any progress on Yeti Land, and I know a lot of you guys have been asking for another episode. So I'm kind of like half getting the train station in, and then saving the other half for when we take a break from Yeti Land to go back to building more train stations. So the idea for the last 2 train stations is going to be, I I think we're going to do like a Yeti style train station. It's going to be very primitive, just a bunch of boards and like 2x4s and scaffold. And the Yetis are going to be playing on it and hanging off of it like it's some sort of jungle gym. So you're just going to pull into this like rickety, possibly no roofed, crappy, cruddy looking train station. And that should be a pretty fun episode in itself, because it's building a train station, but it's, again, we're playing and animating Yetis. We're going to be posing them and putting them all over it. So that's probably going to be more of a let's play than it is a let's build. And I'm still unsure if that's going to actually be a blueprint or not, but I don't see why it couldn't be. And then the last train station that I'm really thinking I want to do an ice castle, because I think it's really fitting to our map. Excuse me, I got hiccups a bit. I think it's really fitting to our map because we're doing this very icy Yeti map. And as you can see here, I'm playing around with the lights a lot, and I want these caves to be illuminated with this icy blue glow. And I'll go more into detail in the next episode or so, I think. But yeah, the map is going to be very icy, very magical, very frosty feeling. It's going to look really gnarly at nighttime. And then we have Yetis everywhere. So I think a ice castle would just be so fitting for that fantasy area of the map. So I'm still thinking about it. I'm not going to make any promises, but I think it would be really cool. But it's probably going to sidetrack us again for another day or two. I'm probably not going to go as crazy as I did with the sci-fi Skytrain station. It's just going to be a station that looks like a castle with some ice all over it. So hopefully it's going to be an under 2,000 piece blueprint, pretty easy to do. But the style and the art is something I've never done. I've never really played with the fantasy pieces, so I really don't know what to expect in terms of how long it's going to take me, because I'm probably going to be browsing through the pieces quite often, coming up with ideas, trying to figure out how I actually build a castle. And I also think adding a castle into my workshop will show my versatility to get away from sci-fi and, show that I'm not just a one-trick pony. And also that was the idea with the festive train station as well. So I just want to mix things up a bit, and I think an ice castle would be very suitable. However, we're going to have to take a break from Yeti Land if we end up doing that. So I'm trying to separate what we're working on right now. We're working on half the train station, and then we're going to start doing some other stuff that's really fun. And then once we've gotten at least a few episodes out, I think I have enough footage for two more episodes. Maybe, 2 or 3, maybe? I don't know. I have quite a bit of footage here. I'm going to say 2 more episodes. So that's we have 3 episodes right there. And then from there, we might go work on our destroyed gingerbread, which will be a lot of animation, and it'll be another fun Let's Play. And that might be an episode or 2. And then I think we could take another small break from Yeti Land to finish up our train stations. Once we get those into place, then the Yeti Land is almost completed. We have the train going all the way around the map, and we can really start zoning in on our creativity. So anyways, here I'm just going around touching things up, putting a couple caves. Like I said, I don't want just exposed tracks everywhere. So I decided to play around with this kind of like ruined, cavernous looking feel. And I like the way that looks. And in this episode it's more of just like blocking out our train stations, doing a few caverns and some lighting and stuff like that. We're experimenting with our lighting. So at this point, just after this episode, I ended up doing one of those, I think it was the Avatar video, and then I got talking to Kevin, and I was showing him how to blend all these lights together, and he kept on showing me his Avatar stuff, and I was like, no, you got to do home tree, and I was showing him examples of how you can blend 3 types of blue together and use white lights to make it really pretty, and then that just got me so inspired. So I think in the next episode or 2, that'll be where I start like really figuring out the lighting, because I was trying to figure out the lighting for Home Tree for his Avatar night park. So things get really fun. And here, well, you'll see me experimenting with the lights, but this is before I believe I started experimenting with the Home Tree lights for Avatar. And I was just testing things, and this was looking really splotchy, very spotty, and I didn't like the way it looked. But everything is always an experimentation. So I don't want to just cut the footage out and say, oh, that was not good footage, you know, I'm going to remove it, because it's a part of the process. And I want you guys to know that sometimes we fail during our creativity. We do things that we don't like, and we have to go back to the drawing board and find things that work. So in this experimentation here, I wasn't exactly happy with it, but I figured, you know, I could, you know, fix it later. So I'm playing around with this cave and seeing what I can do. And the way the light came in there, the white light, I did like that. So because this area is all underground, we want it to be illuminated, so when we're building our fantasy town in here, you can see. It's not like pitch black. We don't want to rely on sunlight, especially not for nighttime. So I am playing around with different things here, and those little spotty lights, they worked really good for underneath the water along the edges if you space them out properly, and it gives the water this really nice contrast between dark blue to a shaded like glowing blue on the side, and I really like the way that looked. So some of the things that I'm experimenting with, I am actually liking, and other things I'm not. Lighting up the big rooms with those spotty lights, it wasn't a good idea. But sometimes you just gotta leave it and keep going with the flow and try like play with something else for a while, and maybe go back to it later. And I feel like if you fiddle with something for too long, you can get a creative block. So here I decided I'd just move over to the waterfall, because this is originally why we had this little cavern here, and I'm adding the water to a building piece, because that way I can select them all together and duplicate and move them as a group. It's just a little building trick that I highly recommend when you're doing multiple things. Just attach it to a building piece and shove it off to the side somewhere, and they'll all be combined to that building, and then you could just move rows of stuff, and so your scenery is kind of like its own building piece. Now the weird thing about this, it just so happens that water in this game, when it's dark or it has lots of light in a dark area, shows up black, which was kind of weird. I'm not too happy about that, but I still wanted to move forward with the waterfall idea. So it's gonna look the way it looks, and that's not really my fault. It's just something to do with the way the game renders the water for some reason. So nonetheless, I decided I would put it in, and we'll fix it and try and make it a little bit better later on, using some rocks, some paint, some lights, and that sort of thing. So we'll really shape it, and I think by the latest episode that I'm working on, I find something that I'm pretty happy with. Now obviously I didn't like those little things being exposed, so I figured I'd try and cover them up, and I was having some frustrations here because I wanted to try and fill this little area up with water, but also make it look realistic. And technically the water can't flow from there into here without it pouring in and flooding the room. So there's a little bit of a hump, and it makes it kind of feel unrealistic in the sense that, like, how would the water get over the ledge? But it is what it is, and I had to work with it. And then I wanted this tiny little mid room to have water in it as well. But the game was also not handling the pools very well. It kept filling up the room. So I just kept on adjusting the size, the width, and trying to fill it up, but it just kept filling up the room. So I do end up almost scrapping the idea, but what I do is I get these two small little pools in there. See, I got it to work there, and I was like, okay, it'll be a little bit of water, and I'm just trying to figure out how I can smooth it, how far I can smooth it before it floods the room. And I get a little bit of water in there, but the problem is the water's not high enough, and those little tiny emitters are still exposed. So I'm trying to sink them in, but I can't quite hide them. So I do have to end up bringing up the terrain, which is kind of unfortunate. But I just wanted this nice glowy blue kind of water area. So some of the water is built up in there on the way down. And it ends up being a lot less water than that because I fill it in with ground and I put some rocks in there and stuff like that. But there's little tiny pools of water in there, and it gives it a nice effect at the end of the day. And overall, the black water doesn't really bother me because we get so many contrasting colors between the lights, the darks, the blues, the teals, and all that stuff, that it really just, it looks pretty cool, and I don't mind it anymore. So it turned out looking pretty interesting, and it was something that I was willing to just select it all and hit delete if it didn't work. So sometimes you just got to push on for like an hour or so, and if you're not happy with the result, then start again. But if you keep working at it, sometimes you'll get something that looks pretty interesting. So I think it worked out pretty good. So I'm just putting like some spotlights underneath the water to kind of like, because you can see through the black particles a little bit. At least if you could see through the black particles and see blue, it'll help fight the black. So I did my best to kind of brush up the weird black effect that's happening here, and I think it turned out pretty decent. So we end up just like pulling up the ground here, and you can see here it kind of ruined our little water pools, but we have a little bit of water in there, and then we'll put some of this cracked ice, so it's like frozen over. The cold water just froze all the ground around it. And I thought that was a really good look as well. Then I just stuffed that building piece we had into the ground just to hide it. I figured I'd leave it as a group. And I'm pushing all these lights into the walls because I didn't want them to be noticeable. And I left them there because I wasn't sure if I liked it. But now that I'm decided that I liked it, I might as well just push them all in and hide them. And now it just looks like some sort of unrealistic phenomena happened here. Obviously ice doesn't normally glow like that, but this is Yeti Land and it's a fantasy world. It's our imagination, so we're gonna have some fun and make it somewhat alien-like. We're gonna have crazy, phenomenal lighting and crazy things happening here. So I decided to go in and take those little spotty lights and play around with it. So what we're testing here is we're using the floodlights, and I tested 3 or 4 of them there, and I was like, okay, this really works. So if you take those ones that are underneath the building materials and you just type in light, you'll get the area light and the floodlight. The floodlight actually shines like a spotlight, and if you pull it back far enough, it doesn't actually shine a spot. It just shines color, and you can bleed these into one another and get this really soft gradient. And if you mix in other colors like darker blues and lighter blues, you can get some really nice effects. And I think I do that in either this episode or the next episode. I'll add some darker blues in there as well, and you start getting some really nice effects. And here I was just trying to play around with that a bit too, because I wanted to add some contrast between the blues. So I'm looking at different teals, different blues, and I really love that purple, by the way. I was looking at the purple and it goes, ooh, I want to make the purple. It looks so good. However, it doesn't fit our theme. That's something I decided I would save for a later date, and use on a different map or different play style. This theme, I want it to be strictly different colors of blue, some white, just everything that represents cool and icy. So and also here, I really love the effect of how the snow, as soon as it starts almost surfacing to the top of the water, you can start seeing the blue lights hitting the snow there, and it illuminates in such a light blue way. There's dark blues, there's a little bit of white, and you get these really cool contrasting colors that gives us that alien-like lighting that we're trying to go for. So we want things to be really unnatural, cool, and fantasy feeling, so that we have it's something extraordinary. It's not meant to be your regular snowlands. So I figured adding some more spotlights in, shining on those snow humps, would really make them illuminate, and we're starting to see some really cool effects come into play. And yeah, I love these little techniques that I was playing around with and discovering while doing this. So I'm really happy with this, and we're going to go a little bit crazy with it in probably the next episode or even this episode. I don't know. Let me see how much time we have left. We have about 3 minutes left. So, yeah, we do go pretty crazy with it in the next episode. But I think in the next episode, guys, we're going to actually play with the Yetis. We're going back to animation. Where I decided, like, I didn't want to just... I want to mix things up for you guys and make things interesting. So I was like, okay, I got to do something with the Yetis again. So we have the mama interacting with the baby Yetis in the next episode. And something that I mentioned way back in the first, I don't know what it was, couple episodes when we were building her. I said something that we were going to do with her and her minions. And you will see that come to life in, I believe, the next episode. So stay tuned. There's going to be a fun one coming up, I think, next. So we're going to be working the terrain, and then we're going to take a break from the terrain, and we're going to do some Yeti animation. So as you can see there, I ended up switching the color of the blue while I was talking about the Yetis there. I felt that light blue was too tealish feeling. It was a little bit too light. I like the cooler, heavy blue, slightly lighter than a night blue. And I went and changed a bunch of the lights, and I was looking around going, oh, it doesn't match anymore. But I was okay with that because the contrast between a light blue, a teal blue, and a night light blue looks really cool, because you have one that's kind of contrasting with the other, adding a gradient effect. So I left the waterfall with the icy lighter blue, and then I added some darker blues on the outside, and I actually think that works really well. And if you're ever trying to do techniques like this, I'd say use the darker blues in the shadowy areas and use the lighter blues in the areas that are supposed to receive more light, and then you'll get a really cool effect between the shadows and the brights. And the way they blend into one another is a really fun effect. I really enjoyed this. So I ended up leaving a lot of those little teal lights and just adding more blue. And I really liked the illuminating effect that we got from this. And from this, from this whole experimentation phase, I started coming up with new discoveries. Like, we want this place to feel magical. We don't want this to be your average winter wonderland. We want it to feel alien-like. The Yetis, are like a mythical creature from, different fantasy stories, but we're putting our own spin and twist on it. There's giants, there's gingerbread people, the snowmen are alive. This is truly a fantasy world that we're building that is non-existent in real life. So why not have these almost alien avatar-like glowing earthly surfaces where the ice is illuminated by some sort of inner earthly glow. So I wanted the underbellies of the rocks to have their own glow, and like they're alive. And I really like this effect, and I just playing around with where I could put it, and I didn't feel like it worked on those little floating ice chunks. So I'm just playing around with it still. Anyways, I think that's it for our recording here. In the next episode, we're going to play with some more Yetis, so stay tuned for that. We're also going to do some more terrain sculpting and some other fun stuff, but we're definitely going to do something with the Yetis, guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it was pretty tedious, a lot of lighting going on, but it's nice to be back into Yeti Land. So thanks again so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like, please be sure to smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. And let me know what you guys think of this episode of Yeti Land down in the comments below. All right, everybody. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.